And hello,
Thank you.
Ms. Robertson and Mr. Farmer. I saw you briefly. Hello, hello. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, I think I'm ready to go here. Thank you. It's good to see you again. I think there is one new council member since when I've been here last time and we met in the elevator, so thank you. We can go to the first slide right there. Brief introductions. My name is Melanie Ryan. If we want to just advance the slide one there. I am the CFO of MFR Coaching Consulting. On the left-hand side, that is the project team that worked on the City of Bremerton project. Tony Farmer is on the call, as was mentioned previously. The MFR engagement team has extensive experience in both DEI and human resources, both that we have worked internally in positions in DEI and HR, as well as our consulting experience. We have a number of HR and assessment certifications. In particular, we have ones relative into this engagement, a certified culture assessor, certified diversity and belonging facilitator, and certified diversity and belonging coach. These are programs accredited with the Institute for Facilitation and International Coaching Federation. I will take a brief moment. We partnered with Clarity Partnerships on this project. So I'll take a brief moment for Lucretia and Tony to say hello and introduce themselves. Lucretia, we can see you, so I don't know if you want to unmute and say hi first, and then we'll just have Tony say hi.
Sure. Hi, hello. Thank you for the invitation. Lucretia, as my introduction has already said, I am the principal of Clarity Partnerships, and we do work with organizations and teams around organizational culture, some of which is around equity, and some of which more often recently is around belonging. And my background is in DEI, so equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and in HR. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Tony Farmer, as Melanie mentioned, part of the MFR coaching and consulting team, and just happy to be here with you all this evening. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We want to move forward in the slide. As a brief reminder to the council, and then obviously to our new member, the 4 objectives we had for the project were to do stakeholder engagement, and that was part of an overall culture assessment. We did that both internally and externally with the community. And that engagement was to inform a strategic plan, to create the job description and a recruitment strategy for the DEI position, and to recommend support necessary for REACT going forward. It was also to assess the overall workplace culture and the leadership and DEI capacity and skills. That portion we are not focused on today. We are focusing on the 2 objectives in the yellow box. Those are the objectives that have specific action items for the council, which is why we're focusing on those today. That is the diversity, equity, inclusion position, the job description and a recruitment plan, the REACT, Race Equity Advisory Commission, the framework and resources for that commission to fill the commission's duties. That has been established by the council by code. The 4th one was the strategic planning, which is really bringing this all together, providing a framework for the city to move forward on how to do this work beyond the scope of this project. So with that, let's get into it. Move one more slide. So the diversity, equity, and inclusion plan, as we talked about, the deliverables were the DEI job description and recruiting plan. If you are looking at the report that you received, we're going to be looking at pages 26 through 31 as I talk about this section. The DEI job description starts on page 26. When we developed this job description, what we did is we considered the following. We looked at feedback and findings from those facilitated dialogues and culture assessment we had. We did a comparative analysis with similar positions in similar size municipalities as they were available. As I said, the team has industry experience working internally and have done this consulting work in other organizations for diversity, equity, and inclusion departments. So we leveraged that experience. And then we did current research around the industry and what's going on in these types of positions. So I want to highlight some key takeaways that I would lift up from the report. So one of those, and this will need council action, is that we recommend, I think when this position was originally discussed, it was talked at the manager level, and we recommend elevating this to the director level and having it report directly to the mayor. And there's some reasons for that. Some of those reasons are backed by research. When the head of DEI reports to the senior leader of the organization, it signals the importance and priority within the organization. It offers a more integrated collaborative approach. Those of you who have had experience with DEI know that it's not vertical. And I believe I actually said vertical in the report. That was a mistake. It should have said horizontal. It is not vertical. It's a horizontal integration in an organization. And it requires the highest level of strategic focus across every department to ensure equity is embedded. And so that DEI leader, whether you call it director, whether you call it a chief diversity officer, to be the most empowered and effective, really needs to be working in partnership with the other strategic leaders of an organization. And it just empowers the position, provides them, I mean, it literally is living out the concept of equity by empowering the position in that manner. The other thing I kind of lift out of there is that we just, the title doesn't have to be Director of DE&I. We'd really recommend being thoughtful about what is the message that the title represents. And the title should represent the commitment that the city is making both to its employees and to the community. And so we offered a number of different titles that you could consider and suggest. There are lots of different titles out there, but some of the titles that we offered and suggest add the word accessibility, for example. Or you could offer belonging, I think is culture and belonging is another one you might want to think of. You may want to add anti-racism in there, but maybe be thoughtful about what is it that we want to communicate with the title of this position. When we think about the job description and scope, I'm not going to go through every point on the job description. It is recommended as a draft. Ultimately, this is, you all have to approve that, and you may want to wordsmith some things, and we're happy to answer some questions about why you might have put a certain thing on there or so on and so forth. The job description is on pages 26 to 29. And so a couple of things I would pull out and highlight though right now in the time that we have. We really designed the job description to reflect the fact that this position has both internal and external facing responsibilities. Obviously in a government, that's not unusual, although not all DEI director positions may necessarily have the extent of the external facing work that we're talking about for this position. But we really wanted to reflect the dual nature of this position in the job description. We also want to call out in our discussion tonight, a number of times within the job description, we highlight the partnership and collaboration that for the position across employees, leaderships, and with the community. One of the things we also say in the report, this work cannot be done by a single person alone. So this is a position that provides leadership and strategic direction, but it's something that's going to have to be assumed by anyone within the Bremerton structure. That goes from council to executive branch, to municipal court, to the employees in the workforce as well. And then I pull out the language in the education section. I'm sure many of you are aware of, there is, and I know the city has taken a look at some of this as well, is what are we requiring for people for jobs? And, does a person in this position have to have a degree? We would say no. We recommend a minimum of 5 years relevant experience. There are some people who would have 5 years that wouldn't be ready for a director level, and that's why you evaluate the experience against the requirements of the job. And there are some people who are going to be more than ready than that with that. But we just highlight the language. You may think about using that language in other positions within the city as well. And then we move to the recruiting plan part of this. As it relates to council, we recommend the council approve hiring an executive search firm. A couple reasons for that is thinking about the capacity that the staff has right now to be able to do hiring and recruiting. I think we're all aware that everywhere, but certainly no different here. Capacity of staff is really tough, and this is kind of a big job to recruit for this position. And then secondly, we're hiring for someone where that particular skill set doesn't yet exist in that level of detail in the city yet. And so to bring in somebody who has an expertise about how to recruit for that, and how to look for that, we would recommend that. We don't do executive recruiting and hiring, so that is not a pitch for us to get more work. So, and the other thing we would really highly recommend, we've recommended it and seen it done, we participated in ourselves in other ways, is, again, modeling the work and equity through the process, is to, in the interview process, have it be very collaborative and participatory, have an employee team be part of the interview process that's diverse and representative, have the community involved. If we have a REACT established by the time, you're at the interview process, have REACT involved. If not, I don't think so either. And you'll see that in the timeline too. But you can still have a community panel. Like there was a community panel brought together to choose us as those stages. So you can still have community involvement. I was recently part of a panel that chose our school superintendent. So I would highly recommend modeling the work through that process in the interview process. In the strategic plan, we put a target hiring date of June 2024. That's because we were looking at a year-long plan for the city. And so we were trying to scope out how would you put the pieces of this puzzle together over the course of a year. The recommendation would obviously be to move forward sooner rather than later. I believe this is a priority of the council, so that would be a place you'd probably want to start. And that was the target. So to recap on this particular one, City Council action would be approve job description, approve the level of the position at director, and approve budget for executive search firm. And I think this is the way this is structured, for me to go through it and then you do Q&A, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much, Ms. Ryan.
Well, there's one more slide. Do you want to do Q&A on this one now and then, or just
nope? Let's do it all at the end. Okay. No, thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't not doing the right.
You're perfect.
So on REACT, so the deliverables for REACT were to provide a framework and resources for the Race Equity Commission. So, in the report, we talked to the history that you are aware of, as well as the former committee, and that committee being disbanded as it wasn't found to be in compliance with the city charter, the code being established. And so this is how do we move forward? So again, with this, we're taking into consideration the legal code. We're taking into consideration feedback from members who participated in the last process. And we are looking at similar types of commissions that exist in other municipalities, and just generally, how do you do this equity work and trying to bring to you the framework. What you'll see is we actually recommended something a little different, but before we get to there, and let me talk to you a little bit about the resource section of that. In your packet, you'll see that, or in the report, you'll see that we link a resource called the Citywide and Equitable Engagement Cohort in Portland, Oregon. This is a great resource. I highly recommend everybody read this. And the link should work. I tested it. If it doesn't, let me know. We'll send it to you. It was a project of the City of Portland's Office of Community and Civic Life with the Center of Public Impact. Their cohort had 25 employees who were focused on reimagining government structures. And some of the key themes within their work that I think might be of interest to Bremerton and have synergies with what React is that was building and repairing community trust to ensure inclusive decision making. How do you make knowledge, information, and resources more available to communities? How do you implement community feedback and communicate changes? And how do you address historical and recent? So I think that's a great resource. In addition to that, in the appendix on page 41, we have a larger list of racial equity resources. We would point out that the former committee cultivated a very deep list of resources. They also recommended some of these resources previously to the city, such as GARE. So we highly recommend that the new REACT and that the city leverage some of the resources and the work that existed previously. There was a lot of work. We reviewed some of that work as well. That work we would recommend be honored and also the need to recreate that. And then thirdly, one of the things we were deeply impressed by is just the resources you have here in your community. You have a deep bench of organization and leaders doing racial equity work. The opportunities to partner with REACT to identify and build relationships to advance that work in the community. So I'll move on. The last part I'll move on this part is, talking through the delivery of a framework and the difference of an engagement model and why we really focused on an engagement model. And we considered the potential implications of a framework feeling very directive and very non-collaborative, and addressing some of the root issues that we noted in some of the discussions with the community and trying to reestablish trust with the community. Engagement model offers the opportunity to co-create a partnership while still having those legally established parameters that are really clear for everybody. And we recommend this as a more equitable approach to reestablishing REACT. Where am I on time? So I'm just about done with time, so I won't go in super. Did y'all get a chance to look at the? Okay, so you do have some familiarity. So you can see the engagement model that we recommended. And I think then what it really comes down to is of the recommendations, there are some that, again, will require council approval. So one of those will be for involvement. Does the council want to kind of work on an engagement model? And how will you move forward with that? And that would be a co-creation with REACT and city staff. One of the other recommendations that we had was that the code establishes that the mayor will bring appointments to the council for approval. And we recommend that somehow in that process, that the mayor's recommendations include either feedback from REACT or the community or nominations from the community on participation in members of REACT. And then you will also see there is a lot of discussion. And I know Jennifer, we have talked about different frameworks and models about the emotional labor of doing this work. And so we recommend approving a financial stipend. We realize if you do that, you may either have to change your charter or code, and you may have to do it for all commissions. But it is very much a very deep conversation around equity about how we're asking people to do very significant labor, particularly emotional labor in this area without compensation. So with that, I think I'm almost right on time
Nice.
to the Q&A part.
Okay. And so counselors, just to let you know, at our next study session, HR will have a proposed, and Kylie, Attorney Fennel will be working to bring us a proposed job description based on the feedback from this report. And so we'll see that in 2 weeks, and we can talk about it then and talk about, debate, whatever. But beyond that, counselors, do you have any? We have about 8 minutes for questions, and here's the deal: why we only have, we need to honor other people's times. Our consultants have other things to do after 5:30. That's how long we kind of have them for. And so, counselors, I'll open up the floor to you. Are there any questions? Yeah, Jeff.
Sure. And you said if we have any questions about the report in general, we can reach out to them or reach out through you. Or
yeah, I think one really great way that we're going to be able to manage. Now is a good time to ask questions about the report, but we only have about 8 minutes. But Anna and I are going to be tagging up, just so you know, that we're going to be point people because we were part of an ad hoc committee too. So we can do a tag up with them at another point in time and bring up the questions that you have. But please feel free to ask questions right here and now.
okay, sounds good. I'll jump in and need to find the written later on. But first, just a giant thank you. We just got the report last night, and so I was able to read through it. Need to read through it again, but seemed extremely comprehensive and a lot of great recommendations. So again, just thank you all for the work on this. And I know we're focusing on these kind of 2 sections, and there was more in there. Did the survey of city employees inform the recommendations on the DEI director level position as far as job description goes and the form of REACT, or was that completely separate from interviewing folks in the city?
The employee piece did not have much to do with REACT per se. That didn't, the way, and I think, I don't know how much you've gotten in the report, the conversations with city employees are very employee-led. So we open up with a pretty general question. The question might be a little different every time, but it may look something like, how would you describe the culture at the city of Bremerton or the organization, wherever we're at? And then we kind of go off of what the city employees are telling us. So those conversations and the findings that you find in the report certainly help inform it, because it helps tell us, where do we think that this particular position is going to need to lean in more. So in this particular case, you'll see in the DEI position some of the stuff around training and so on and so forth. Now, we would expect to see that in a DEI position, but you can see in the findings that is also something that came out in the findings that I would say in the city, that would be an area that maybe you want to lean in a little bit heavier when you're thinking about, this is a big scope of a job. How do we scope it? How do we, and the mayor and I and Kylie and I and Mike and I have talked about this. How do we set someone up for success, and what do we want to have this person prioritize and lean into to start with?
Okay,
where do
makes
we
sense. And I only asked just because kind of starting at the high level, I saw, was it about 12% of employees were surveyed in the city?
Yes.
Okay. I just had some kind of questions
And
about
just to
that.
clarify for people who may not know, it's not a quantitative multiple choice. These are what we call facilitated dialogues. It's what's called an ethnographic qualitative research technique.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll save questions for writing up kind of how that sample was selected, and I just keeping an eye on the statistics and knowing 12% is kind of a small sample size across an organization, but it all depends. For the DI position, so you mentioned some other cities that you looked at for the job description and duties. I was curious if there's any specific ones, or are there similar in size?
Yeah, I don't have the full list in front of me. What we did do is on anything we were doing comparable with other cities, we started with Bremerton being in the middle, the 5 cities above and the 5 cities below in population size. So does that make sense? So we looked at 10 cities. So we started there. And then we, and I can't remember off the top of my head which ones of those cities maybe had data that we could react to. Then we also did a search of what was open in Washington State around that time, and Oregon State. And then again, like I said, we have worked with other organizations, so we leveraged some of the work we've done there. And some of it, like I said, some of the people on the team are DEI professionals. So we've leveraged the work from the organizations that they either have worked at previously or now.
Just wrap up with any of those cities that I don't know if if I missed it in the report or not, but any really good success stories where like this city really crafted it and did it right, and they've had these good outcomes as a result. Any cities to highlight where it was not done right, and they crafted this position at a manager level and stuck it away down here.
Right, and so what I would say is that's what we tried to build into the recommendations around the position on the recruitment plan and how to set somebody up for success. It's not just cities, it's any organization. That's one of the reasons why we say you should elevate the position. It's, there's a number of recommendations about how you set metrics and track to that position. And I think we also talked very specifically for Bremerton is that to address some of the culture issues that were highlighted in the report, because what we know is that when we're doing diversity, equity, and inclusion, if we bring people in and haven't addressed some of the culture issues, particularly people who may be in underrepresented groups, we're not bringing in a place where they're going to end up wanting to stay and be retained in the organization. And so we can, city can begin working on how we start addressing some of these findings even before the director comes in. And I would add, what we found in the report in needs of improvement, that is common. It's very rare to be a toxic organization, and it's very rare to have absolutely nothing ever to work on. So the city certainly was not in a place that
Not liar, yeah.
Yeah.
You list
All right.
cities, or I'll
It
go
is,
for the list.
it is 5:30, and I want to respect our consultant's time. And so I just wanted to do a check-in. We have you until 5:30. And so is that a pretty hard number for us to respect here?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that,
Yeah.
I think there's a couple people that have
Yep.
hard commitment.
And that's the
So,
thing, yeah, and
Yeah.
when we have our consultants here, we need to be mindful of the time that they have for us, but we do have a protocol in place, counselors, so you can send follow-up questions. Just send follow-up questions to City.Council, and then what we will do is, or could they send them directly to you? I think it'd probably be better. Kylie, what's the best way to do it? Yep,
Right,
I think that's the best way.
because we have talked with Kelly, and I think you mentioned that we do have the ability to do an
Yep.
ad hoc meeting, to get in more depth.
That'd be fantastic.
And then-
Yeah.
Outside of tonight. Tonight was
Because I have a lot of questions about methodology too. There's quite a lot of sources missing, but I'm super intrigued by it as well. I've done ethnographic studies in college. So it looks like, Ms. Robertson, yes.
I raised my hand, then I couldn't find my mute button. But anyway, just really quickly, I want to leave this with this group, this body of decision makers. MFR and their team, Melanie's team, has already stressed this in the report, and I hear her saying it in what she's sharing with you, but I'm going to emphasize this. I know that there is a desire to have data, hard data, numbers, reports, things of that nature, to justify and to quantify why this work needs to be done. And yet, what you read in the report is this is really about building trust, relationship building, leveraging the skill sets, the strengths, the capacity of our community to create an environment not only within the city of Bremerton government, but within our communities where people feel as if they're heard, they're valued, and they belong. And so having all that information is great. And then we still need to remember that those relationships are going to be critical. And so decisions can't be made in a vacuum. It's really important to invest in these relationships and conversations with the community, those people who came to those external facilitated dialogues they were extremely grateful. Extremely grateful. And so that says a lot about what they hope to experience from the city, something that's relationship building and reinforcing. And so I don't want to talk that, too far, but just to say that Melanie and her team did a phenomenal job. Yes, I am biased, but I can say that they did a phenomenal job. And what they captured and what they're sharing today is that those relationships, that community building is so critical for the future of the city of Bremerton government and the city itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robertson.
Thank you, Lucretia. Tony, anything really quick before we go?
Nothing other than thank you. Our time with Bremerton community and Bremerton city employees was a joy from my perspective. Just having everybody provide their collective perspectives was really interesting, and the energy behind wanting to do right by the city. So I'm just happy to be a part of this process, and we look forward to engage you further down the line. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all. We do have a pretty great community, don't we? So,
Tony, before you, I'm sorry.
Mayor, would you like to be right? Yeah, what's up?
I'd like to be
You're
recognized.
right. Yes, sir.
And then may I recognize Kylie?
Right, I just wanted to point out, because there was reference to the report that the council received, that report is available publicly on the city's website under the mayor's initiatives for diversity. It's available on the city's website. So if anyone wants to take a look at it, it's available to the public as well. And so I just wanted to put that out there in case anyone's listening, that it is there for everyone to look at.
Okay, Mayor, did you have any final words?
That closes my remarks.
Perfect. We have a pretty great community, don't we? Did you guys enjoy being at Bremertonians? I mean,
Well, I'm a Kitsap County.
Yep.
Well, not original. I came here when I was 12. And but what I will say is the one piece I would, and we've talked about this with the mayor and Kylie, and it is in the report. One thing that came out over and over and over again was the pride everyone has.
Yes.
In the community.
Yeah.
And you'll see that was a pervasive finding. It came in the conversations with employees. It came in that, and that to have that strength to leverage and start from
Yep.
is amazing.
That's our legacy.
And I would emphasize that. So it was great to be back close to home. And I thank you for trusting us to do this work and for having us here today.
Thank you for your good work. Thank you, Mr. Farmer and Ms. Robertson. You have a wonderful evening. Stay warm, dry, and safe. And safe travels back home,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Ryan.
Thank you.
That's the plan. Good evening.
Oh, good evening. Okay. And is Denise still with us? Okay, great. Next up on our agenda, we have Mayor Wheeler here to present item 1, confirming reappointment of Vanessa Asherto to the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television Citizens Advisory Committee. Mayor Wheeler.
Yes, and I couldn't have said it any better. Yes, I'm just asking for you to confirm Vanessa to be reappointed.
Do y'all know who Vanessa is, Asherto? Okay. No, she's on our she's on our legal team. She works, but she also has been involved with a couple of other committees she does the minutes for our public safety committee.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about this particular appointment? Jeff?
I can't remember if it was her first appointment on
The
this
reappointment.
BCAT or his reappointment.
BCAT.
Sorry, first time where it's a reappointment.
This is a reappointment, I'm pretty sure.
Sure, you mean her first reappointment?
Yes,
It's
yes,
the first
it is.
reappointment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, sure.
It is a
Second
reappointment.
term, if you start of a second term. Okay,
Yes.
sounds good.
Yep.
All right, you can ask my standard question. I'm gonna start asking too, is any,
Well, I think though that it was to fill the city staff position on that body. And Vanessa was one of the ones that applied. That was my memory because I remember that they talked to me about it because she took minutes for the public safety committee. She's great, by the way.
Jeff, go right ahead.
thanks. No, I appreciate the background. Maybe that answers my question. Is there
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm having trouble getting my packet loading. Is there a specific staff position on the BCAT Advisory Committee, and that this appointment is for that staff position, or is it just an open to any resident?
This one, for her particular interest, you have to get, is Kylie behind me?
No.
It's down in Kylie's office.
Oh, she's okay. She's
I'm
Citizens
pretty
Advisory
sure,
Committee.
I'm pretty sure that it was a city staff slot.
I found the web page. So staff members from Bremerton and Kitsap County, in addition to staff members, is made up of 10 community members.
Didn't see a,
we can always get that information and follow up by email over the week during this week. And if during the briefing, if you have any concerns, we can always move it off of if people want it to be on the consent agenda.
I'm happy with that. With the staff member position, that makes sense.
Director Riley?
Just reached out.
Okay.
yeah, wasn't in any of the,
Any other questions about this
Answers.
this reappointment? Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Denise, for your context on that. Okay. Would you like to go ahead and treat this as consent agenda item for now, Council?
That sounds good.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
And then next up, we have CDBG Program Administrator Sarah Lyman here to present item number 2, resolution to approve the capital agreement with Washington State Department of Commerce for the Connecting Housing to Infrastructure Program grant for the Kitsap County for the Kitsap Community Resources Minute Housing Project. Hey, I'm excited to hear about that too. Was this discussed in any committees? Finance. Okay, finance had it. And then was it recently discussed in finance?
Yesterday.
Okay. And did we give kind of the head nod, the
Yes,
committee? Okay.
We did.
Thank you, Ms. Lyman. Go right ahead.
I'm going to be super short because this is something you folks have heard, I think, a couple of times. So what we have this evening, this is a grant agreement from Washington State Department of Commerce in the amount of $430,000 for the Connecting Housing to Infrastructure Program grant, or the CHIP grant. These funds were awarded to the city back in 2022 to support the development of affordable housing by funding the water, sewer, and stormwater utility improvements for Kitsap Community Resources 9-unit Minette housing project. If approved, the city would administer the $430,000 grant on a reimbursement basis to KCR. The city has already allocated about $580,000 in city home funds for the construction of the Minette Townhome project. And the total project funding can be found in attachment B of the grant agreement. There are no matching funds for this grant. And then the ask from City Council is to review and potentially approve the grant agreement. Thank you.
Councilors, any questions on this? I can't see Denise. I don't know if she'll have any, but you'll let me know, Mike. Right? Okay. And then I know that councilors, I know we're going to get an update from Tony on the 28th after legislative session is closed for our affordable housing update. But do we want to treat this as a consent agenda or general business?
Just for the money.
Consent.
Consent to
I
that.
say consent. Consent. Yes.
Yes, expedite this as fast as we can, right? And we already had and I really appreciate the work that you guys have done that y'all have done on this. So thank you very much, Ms. Lyman.
Thank you.
This is a long, we've been waiting on this Minette project for a little while, so it's nice to see it moving forward again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Internal Services Manager Matt Donnelly-Cott here to present item number 3, contract modification agreement number 4 with Kellermeyer Bergensen Services. Did I say that right?
You did.
Hey, LLC for janitorial services. Was this discussed in any?
Public Works Committee.
Can you give the head nod for it?
Yes.
Okay, go right ahead.
All right. Well, good evening. Like you said, my name is Matt Donnelly-Cott. I'm the Internal Services Manager. This contract modification agreement is for City Contract 5857 with Kellermeyer Bergensen Services, KBS for short. This modification has 3 changes, which are an addition of 1 site that needs janitorial service, 1-year contract extension, and an increase in compensation. The additional site is the Police Operations Building, which is located at 3029 Olympus Drive. This facility recently became a training facility for our police officers. Prior to this change, it was mainly used for storage of vehicles, for investigations and things like that, so no janitorial services were needed. With the added increase, though, of the building use, we definitely need to have janitorial services provided on a regular basis. The current contract, unfortunately, has recently expired. We noticed this while working on this modification. After talking with our city contracts administrator, it was recommended that we pursue this 1-year contract extension now. And then this summer, we'll begin working on establishing a new contract, either through a formal bid process or utilizing the Washington Department of Enterprise Services contract. At that time, a new contract would be presented to council for approval, and it would take effect January 1st, 2025. During the 5-year contract, KBS has been an excellent contractor. We've had minimal issues throughout the entire contract. KBS currently provides service to 8 city-owned buildings and our BCAT facility. KBS is the only janitorial service provider the city is currently using. Over the span of this contract, KBS has only had a cost increase due to increase to Washington state minimum wages. This modification has that same increase due to minimum wages, as well as an increase due to inflation. In the past, KBS has been able to absorb these inflation costs in the previous years, but needed to address it now. The annual increase for this contract due to minimum wage and the inflation is $15,397.56. A total annual contract amount of $121,057.68. This amount is located within the approved 2024 budget, and no additional funding is required. Available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donley-Cott. Any questions, councilors?
A quick comment that we're talking public works. My understanding is this is the contract that services pretty much every building in the city, except for Norfolk Government Center, since that's by multiple agencies.
Correct.
That's good.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and trust the Public Works Committee on this one, but it does look like it's roughly about an additional $1,200 a month. And so how many hours is that contracted for this one building?
It's going to be two services per week, and it's roughly 4 hours per week.
Okay. So, okay. All right. Thank you. So it's so roughly 8 hours a week. So that's, I guess I'm not understanding the cost. That seems really high for the cost, I guess.
No, because that additional 1,200 is the increase in minimum wage plus over the whole contract and the increase in the inflationary costs over the entire contract. Over that, let's say it was 100,000.
Okay. So we're looking at 16, so 32 hours a month at $1,283 roughly.
And so it's 7 buildings currently under contract.
Right.
And those get increased, and then we're adding this additional one.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
$300.
Got it.
Yeah, okay.
Back on track. Thank you so much. All right, consent agenda, everybody?
Yes.
All right, moving on. Thank you very much, Mr. Donley-Cott. And flipping over the script. Whoever came up with this script idea is a genius.
It was me, thank you.
You're welcome. I already knew
Now,
that.
when Greg was in charge, he didn't need a script. I needed a script.
All right, next up, it looks like we have sitting here David Dinkin, Engineering Project Manager, here to present item 4, contract with Red Side Construction LLC for the Pine Road Basin Stormwater Improvements Marine Impact Basin Project.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
I'm stoked about it.
I did not come up with a name.
Yeah.
So I asked Mike to put 2 graphics. This one is in the packet, and if you roll up a little bit, I've got a picture of what we're replacing. So this is replacement of a.
Oh yes, I know that place well.
And the city part of permitting is providing some mitigation. So the debris is removed, there's plantings along the shoreline, and then the scoured out area will be infilled with boulders, cobbles, and sediment. And I'm just going to paraphrase from the summary here. It's the second phase of the overall Pine Road Basin stormwater improvements project. And we received 6 bids for this replacement. And they're listed here. 1, 2, 3. We have 5 listed. So maybe my math's off. Red side was low bid. The engineer is shown towards the bottom. Engineer's estimate was about 875,000, I believe. 873. So I called. We determined Red side was responsive and responsible, and we called and checked references. I have two very positive references, and so we notified Red side of award. So they asked for this evening is to move the contract forward.
Okay, and then I forgot to check in with Public Works. It went through Public Works. I'll give the
Yes.
head nod for it.
Yes.
And counselors, do you have any questions? Eric looks like he's got a question. I can't ever tell.
No.
No? Okay.
Red spec.
Yeah. And I know this spot well. I'm excited for it. Oh, this picture's gone, but I have it in my mind. It's completely cracked underneath. You've probably seen those pictures. It's deeper inside. It's just a mess. So, should we treat this as consent?
Consent.
Consent.
Right.
Thank you very much. All right. And last but not least, we have Utility Manager Chance Barthume here to present item number 5, Stormwater Financial Assistance Program Grant Agreement with Washington State Department of Ecology for Kitsap Lake Stormwater Retrofit Construction Project. Was this discussed in any committees?
Yes, it was.
Okay, gave the head nod for it. Public Works, did you have any concerns or questions about it?
The only concern I had is it was just the city of Bremerton giving financial support to the cleanup of Kitsap Lake and not other property
You're talking
owners.
about the Navy.
Yes, I am talking about the Navy.
No. But basically though.
Basically, we were fine with it. It's a good project he's put together.
Okay.
And it'll be a talking point at the next meeting that Public Works has with the Navy.
Okay. Mr. Barthume.
Good evening.
Yes. Good evening to you.
Once again, I have an ecology stormwater financial assistance program grant for doing construction work at Kitsap Lake to build treatment at 4 locations, multiple systems. The grant is for $2.84 million. It's an 85% grant. So the grant itself is 2.415 million, and the 15% match from the utility is $426,300. So it's a pretty good deal. This is the second project we've had out at the lake, and this is in conjunction overall with our efforts to improve Kitsap Lake and upgrade its water quality to get it off the 303D listing for fecal coliform as well as phosphorus. And the treatment systems that we selected will also remove what's called a 6-ppdq, which is a tire pollutant that kills salmon pretty readily. So I recently discovered that happens. And the systems that we're using on this particular project are the top on the top of the ecology list for removing that pollutant from the current systems that are tape approved. So overall, I think that this is going to be an additional benefit to the lake, along with all of our treatment work and our next project that's coming up. We're going to treat the water from a big area, but this gets a runoff from 82 acres before it enters Kitsap Lake. So it's a pretty significant area that we're treating. And I guess we're here to ask the council to approve this, allow the mayor to finalize this. We can get it going. We did have this scheduled in our CIP for 2024, but we're moving it to 2025. It's still within the grants timeframe, just because of other projects that engineering has going on. So Dave Coon here will be the project manager for this. He also happened to design a good portion of it. So
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be a good deal.
Councilors, do you have any questions? I know Public Works already processed this, but any other questions? I just realized that our 3 Public Works people are here. And then, no question? Just a quick question. You mentioned the tire pollutant. I know Eric talks about this a lot. We talk about the turf, you know, and Parks isn't here, but the turf that has the tire,
Crumb rubber.
the crumb rubber, is that the pollutant that you're talking about specifically, or just like the peel off on the roads from the tires, or?
It's from tire wear on the roads.
Okay.
This from just the higher traffic corridors.
But it's related.
It's the preservative that's built into tire rubber.
Yeah.
That the sun breaks down the tire rubber over time, as well as road use, you know, while the wheels rolling over the asphalt or concrete. And that particulate falls off, the sun breaks down that rubber and it releases the 6 ppdq into stormwater when it collects it, runs out, and the runoff goes into the lakes or streams.
And so we have a certain amount of pollutant that's causing fish to die in the lake, and that's an additional layer to this project.
It doesn't really affect trout or other fish. It's predominantly Chinook salmon.
Yeah. Okay.
Really sensitive to it, but other species I would imagine are impacted, but there's not really published
yet. So you said that there was a match requirement. I didn't see it. Did you say there was a match requirement? I didn't see it in the fiscal but impact. I mean, it says it's included in the 2024 stormwater budget.
The match is 15%. That's $426,290. So the total project is $2.8 million.
Okay. Okay. Eric.
So this sounds great. Just turn to the last page of the packet. It's got, so no, I'm a junkie when it comes to some of the stuff on how things work. So help me out here, Chance. I'm not on Public Works anymore, so I didn't have a chance to discuss it. I'm looking at the map and you got a blue line going all around. Some are going right through houses, so that tells me that you don't have actually drains, whatever, that are catching this stuff. How does all this work? I understand, you know, Kitsap Lake is a basin, and this is all uphill in general, but it's collecting, it looks like, in 4 different spots. Are these giant basins, and how do you get the debris out? Do you use a vector truck, and how does it all magically flow into those basins?
So are you looking at this?
Yeah.
Right. So
Am I not wrong?
No, these are drainage basin boundaries. So essentially the cumulative total of all the basins is about 82 acres.
Okay.
So you have dockside, there's 3 treatment systems, and all the treatment systems are on the Osprey Circle down towards the lake. But there's 3 different outfalls at the lake, so we have 3 different basins. Runoff hits the ground, gets either flows over the surface or through a pipe, and it gets to the treatment points before it goes out to the lake. So the water is collected and diverted into the vaults, and then discharges into the lake.
Are you telling me that's natural topography that's getting it into each one of those basins?
Yep.
It is?
Yes. Okay. And then the other one, the one on the upper left-hand side, that's just a really big basin. And that picks up a lot of water from some area like Country Lane up in Kitsap County's portion of the world, and as well as the Puget Sound Energy stockyard area that is up there. Used to be the rodeo drive-in years ago.
And these basins are existing right now?
They're existing, right? Okay. It's just the topographical boundary of where the basin exists. The runoff that hits the ground in those areas collect at the low spots where our treatment systems are located, or going to be located.
Oh, that was my question. The grant is to put these in. Yeah. Treatment for these circles are. Yeah. So it appears to be on private property. Are you getting easements?
We did purchase an easement down by the garage. It's right at Kitsap Way. So we have an easement for that. And then the other ones are right in the road. So they're in the right of way. Okay. On Osprey Circle. The neighborhood has been informed about this, and there'll be more outreach before the construction starts.
Show me, can you put it up? Do you have that map up there? No.
Mike,
I have it
any way
right there.
to-
Can you show me where these basins are? Because I'm seeing the circles right on the shoreline.
Do you have any way to share?
I don't have a packet download. That's okay. You can just,
Okay.
I have it right here, but. No. Where are they? Are these
It's right here.
circles?
Right here and right there.
The green ones. The green ones.
Yes,
Not-
exactly.
What are the blue ones?
Well, the blue ones are the alcohols.
I tried, y'all.
Those
I
are the
tried. Denise is
the
getting a
blue
kick out
ones-
of that. You have the packet though,
The
right?
blue ones
The
are
packet.
the
Yeah.
existing outfalls, and you're
Yeah.
putting these basins before they get to the outfalls so they can treat the sediment that's coming through.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, the outfalls, we do have easements for all the outfalls.
Yeah. Okay. I got you now.
Okay.
That's a good question.
And then, do you does the street crews come by with a Vector truck and suck all the junk out? Or how?
Sewer crew comes out twice a year and we'll clean them out. At the beginning of the installation, they'll be there more frequently. Just to make sure everything is working fine. So it's every month after they're installed, they'll come out, take a look, make sure see how they're working, make sure the sediment's not building up. And after they get an idea of what the frequency for maintenance is, then they'll start doing a maintenance of whatever frequency that is. So every 6 months or once a year, whatever the case.
I think I know the answer to this question, but we've been trying to educate people in that community about not using phosphorus fertilizers and all that stuff. Now this is going to catch that. Are we sending a mixed message, or are we going to continue saying don't use fertilizers in the Kitsap Lake area?
We have been working with the Kitsap Lakefront property owners to get them to not use phosphorus in their fertilizers. There are a few hardcores that are still using the Chemlon or whatever that is, but there's still a lot of phosphorus nutrient in the groundwater because of past uses. And that's why we're putting these treatment facilities at these locations. We collected samples from all the outfalls that go into the lake, and these were the worst, highest levels of phosphorus. So this is where they'll be most effective.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane, I am curious about, and I'm sorry to keep you as our last item. You thought you took it off easy. Can you explain to me about the role of another, you said the Navy was involved in this?
Well, the Navy's got a park up there.
Okay.
And so I asked if the Navy was helping to pay for any of the mitigations that the city's been doing on Kitsap Lake to make it a nicer place. Currently, they advise their guests who come, not to swim in the water, but they do tell them if they can carry a boat, to carry their boat in at the Navy Park, or to come and use the Kitsap Lake boat launch.
Okay, so they're not responsible for this, for the pollutants, for the phosphorus levels, for all the different, that people call it for. They're not responsible for all of that.
Now, we did find out that they are on sewer, but I don't know if they're using chemicals on their grass and stuff. I don't know.
True.
And they're property owner. So it's like all the property owners in Dockside are helping to pay for this. So.
So it's not just the Navy, unincorporated Kitsap County also surrounded
right.
the lake as well.
Right.
And
Mhm.
the whole backstory, and Mayor Wheeler can certainly say more about this than I can, is that we just decided to take the lead. We got to clean up the lake.
Yeah.
Oh,
let's
no.
We're
do
just
it.
doing what we're
No,
being
they'll
good
never get
neighbors.
done.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, I'm sure Greg had the same
Oh,
meeting, but I met
Thank you,
with
Mike.
Kitsap County at the time, and they're like, yeah, I met with the commissioner that represented that area. Yeah, we'd like you guys to go ahead and take care of it. And all. So I'm just telling you, this is so good. It would never have gotten done. So.
Oh, no, I'm thrilled that we're doing it, that we're being good stewards.
I just
of
want
the
to hear a
land.
little bit of the backstory. So thank
It's
you for the
just, I think-
backstory, both of
I
you.
think we should all be good stewards.
And all of this to say consent?
Consent for me.
Consent it is. All right, Mr. Barthiem, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can't just wake up one day and become a lake management.
Yeah, been at it for a while.
Not his first rodeo. All right, thank you, everybody. All right, so next up, we have general council business. Jane, were you able to access, you have a report, but maybe
I can't. My computer, nothing's there.
Okay,
Was able to get the,
Can you get up the
agenda.
public?
Yeah.
Okay, if you give me the public works agenda, I can.
and several of these items, a few items have probably already discussed today.
Yeah.
So,
Quite a few.
But
low power mode, oh
Well,
gracious.
just you got 5% battery. We're good.
5% will get us through the next 10 minutes or less of report.
Okay, at Public Works Committee, I thought we had a really great meeting. One of the really wonderful things that they're working on is a checklist for each project. They've gotten examples from several cities across the country, and they're going to merge it into one where a project would be it would be given a number based on different things, like does it serve just one neighborhood, or is this project serve multiple areas of the city? Does it have active transportation included in it? There's a whole list of things, but that I think is really going to be wonderful. It's going to be easier for council to understand and for Public Works to know which priorities council agrees with and the community agrees with, because that's part of it too. If there's a lot of community excitement about a project, it would rank higher. And the Ford vehicle, the hybrids, they can't get them. It's not council action, but they're going to have to go with standard gas powered.
I have a question about that. May I ask a question after you're done with your report, or do you want me to ask it now?
You can ask it now.
So this is a pretty common theme that happens. And I just would like to know, Public Works, what your response is, because there's often, they'll come to us with, we want to get these hybrid to fit into our, our environmental stewardship initiatives, and then they can't find them. So they have to go with, do we have any hybrids? Do we have any energy efficient vehicles that we've been able to purchase in the past couple of years?
Yeah, but
Okay.
these they've been waiting for what, 3 years?
It's out. Okay.
And they-
All right.
Yeah.
So
So
you got to
that's-
move forward in
There's a
life.
truck specifically, if I remember right.
Mhm.
You know, or in short supply. And,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
compared to other vehicles. Yeah.
And they're working very hard on the 5-year planning for sidewalk and road preservation. We'll have a better update in the next month or two of what
Okay.
that is. We had a very long and thorough discussion about our water system and our water sources that Cami provided for us, and a lot of the history about how we came to own all the watershed property and why we even started buying it. We had a discussion about the Jarstead to Kitsap Lake Trail, why council thought it was important that we do some further study on it, and Public Works agreed that it was something that we should put on our comp plan and the tip for future discussion. And then traffic calming, there was a couple requests for traffic calming, and currently Public Works only has a policy on when to put in speed bumps. But Gunnar is working on a whole traffic calming manual because there's different types of traffic calming for different locations. So I'm not sure what the time frame is of that. I'm guessing it's going to take several months. And then once we have that traffic calming booklet, hopefully we can give some more money to it, because right now very little money is dedicated towards traffic calming for existing roadways. They try to put it in projects, and those are the major things that I can talk about without my notes.
Jeff, do you have
anything else?
We're just gonna add on the speed hump policy, the current policy, there's, if Public Works doesn't initiate a study themselves, there's a provision where either the Public Works Committee can request a study of a specific street, or I believe it was either 60 or 80% of residents along a street. And I know we talked about, especially taking equity and fairness across the city, to look at that so it's done in a more uniform manner. So it's either triggered by an accident occurring, or just some criteria that's not, if you get a really, forceful council member on Public Works, or a really community that speaks up a lot versus one that doesn't.
Thank you.
Great meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And it looks like that was held, what I forgot to mention is to provide a summary of the highlights of the last meeting held on February 20th. That was the last meeting. So what was that?
Jennifer?
Yes, Denise.
Yeah, Jennifer, I just wanted to give a shout out to staff, Public Works. I think that committee meeting was so great because we could see initiative behind things that council had been talking about. And I think it was a great example that the prioritization spreadsheet and criteria and all of that is in response to council. And so once again, I think, we should just give shout outs sometimes when something's clear that people are listening and moving forward, and just want to say thank you.
Hear, hear.
I love that. I love it. Thank you very much, Denise and Jeff and Jane. Okay, so audit coach, are you the vice chair, Eric, for the audit committee?
There's two of us, so I guess.
That's true.
No, technically, isn't Ms. McDaniel's?
Oh, wait,
technically vice
actually,
chair? I don't
she
want to
is.
make
I
her-
said I didn't want it, and she got me.
So she's
No, she earned it. She beat me out. I want to, for the record, she beat me out.
Okay, so she's not here to give an audit committee
Yeah,
chair
so
report.
I was, then I would rank Marwin, Mr. Cameron, higher than me as well. So I will pour it on the committee of four.
Do you want to give a report, or you want to just?
No, I don't have to give a report. We only talked about one item, and it's basically our auditor is working on the landlord compliance map along with Dave Buffington from IT. And they've come across a little hiccup in that they're using the county information and our licensing information. And because of the various forms, you could say your whatever LLC or Jane Smith or John Smith or Jane R. Smith, the data is like all over the place. So it would be easier if our licensing Andrea had parcel numbers on it. No, she's shaking her head. The auditor already talked for that's whatever.
No,
I'm just a
parcel
messenger.
numbers.
Well, because the Kitsap County GIS is on parcel, and if we had parcel numbers, it'd be easier to marry. So you have a common field, right? They could still be error because you ask a taxpayer for the parcel number, they're probably going to give you what? So I get that. But anyways, they're taking quite a bit of time working on that. So that's the only topic that we talked about.
Interesting. Okay, thank you very much. So next up, we have finance, investment, and parking. to summarize highlights from the last meeting on February 27th. Jane, hey.
We only had one item on the agenda. And I'm sorry, I don't have my computer, so I forget the name of the grants that you were applying for funding through Commerce.
We were actually awarded, it's a $75,000 middle house, no match.
Yep. That's
I love that.
The work that we have to do and we're
Perfect.
gonna use to pay for graphic design for the district digest as well as some code and data.
Wonderful. Okay. Next up, anybody attend any regional or other committee boards that would like to provide a summary of highlights? I literally wrote Jeff down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I knew it. Jeff, you're up. You're up.
The only one is, thanks for letting me continue to attend the PSRC very specific meetings they've been having. And admittedly, I had to drop out about halfway through the meeting, but they had delivered that letter to the governor with everyone signed. That I think has had a good influence on legislatures in terms of allocating funding. The current House and Senate budgets both look, I think, very promising in terms of extra money, not only to the Washington State ferry system to try and expedite any way possible, getting more boats on the route and crew hiring, but also to get some transit for fast ferries, specifically for Bremerton and other parts. So I think we'll wait to see how the final budget shakes out, but very optimistic there. So that's great work they had. And I'll forward along. They did put a summary here. I'll forward to council. I think that was the main highlight. I was really focused on the budget and the current legislative session. But on that, I think I mentioned it last week. Rep. Greg Nance will host another Fix Our Ferries town hall. So that's next Saturday, March 9th at 10 a.m. in Norm Dix here for Bremerton. He's been at the locations. So great to see everybody, all hands on deck.
I'll be there this time.
Wasn't intentional fun, but
All hands on deck, and
not intended.
and then I did sign the letter.
Apart that day.
The letter has been signed by the selected officials.
So there's only then one remaining should they choose to.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment or something for you to question or no less? I don't want to get controversial, but so the ferries are always saying we don't have enough people, right? That's a common thing.
For staffing's a big, yeah.
Staffing's a big issue. Has anybody actually looked on? And then recently I saw them advertise on TV.
Yep, I did too.
Positions, you saw those ads.
Mm-hmm.
Do me a favor, go to their website and see what the requirements are for an entry level, whatever you call it, deckhand. Tell me that someone can walk in off the street and apply for that job, because they cannot.
Yeah.
If you were a captain, a commander of a battleship, or if you were a captain of a marine vessel all your life, you would have to, I'm not an expert, but you certainly could not transfer over and be a captain of a ferry boat. You would have to basically, this is what I've been told, start basically at the bottom and work your way up. I understand there's union issues, but especially for the entry-level worker, a deckhand, not saying they're not skilled, but they have all these training. They can't even get bodies in for these training programs, because if you look at their criteria, you can't make it to be considered for the job. You got to fix that. And you can sign all the letters in the world saying, hey, we're supportive of fixing this. But until someone points it out, and I'm pointing it out to you, fix that. So people can actually apply for the job, be considered, and get people hired.
I like, not controversial at all. You're exactly right. It's come up in the Bremerton Ferry Coalition. It's come up in a lot of different discussions. And I think you're right. This was specific on funding given the current legislative session, but I know that's been talked about on fixing that. I'll call it red tape on getting people in there. Yeah.
Well, it's not only that, they don't give them a permanent place to work. They may have to work in Bremerton for 2 days, then Anacortes, and I mean, it's impossible for a new person to start.
When I asked our legislators about removing barriers, they mentioned that there was legislative action that was going to be taken to help remove barriers. Do you have any information on that? Or is that something that we should come to the March 9th
I think that's
meeting
a great question for our
for our
representative. Yeah.
representatives? Okay. Well, thank you very much, both of you. Appreciate all of you. Thank you. Any other regional meetings that anybody would like to write a summary about? Okay, Michael Goodnow and I attended a little round table with KBA, Kitsap Builders Association, this morning, and it was really nice. It was a very big table and just about, 8 of us around this big table.
They do it, Jeff.
And they have some really good feedback about how the comprehensive plan is going. They had questions about how we felt about parking. But just to pass on, I said, I was a little selfish here. I said, who's the best to work with? Is county or city, as far as, because we have developers, we have builders. I said, who's better to work with? And they said, by far, the city is better than the county to work with. They said they've been collaborating with DCD, and they have a really good flow of information going back and forth. They don't always agree on everything, but it's been very collaborative, and they appreciate that as far as the comprehensive plan is going. And then other than that, I don't have anything else to report on that. Just a good meeting. Is there any other general council business? Any go to the order that you'd like to discuss? We got some time, so.
Patrick's Day parade coming up.
That's right. St. Patrick's Day parade is coming up. What day is that?
But you're going to be a judge
I
now.
realized that I forgot.
You better ditch your judging. We need you. Well, you can. How about
Michael,
you zoom in to be a judge?
Eric, are you going to be in the parade with us?
I don't know. What's the incentive?
I'll get you.
What's the incentive?
More fun with us.
You can wear my big green felt hat, Eric.
Oh,
That's the incentive. Oh, it's a great hat. It's you. It is so you.
I don't even have my electronic brain with me. What day is the St. Patrick's Day parade?
16th.
The 16th. Okay, so we are signed up to walk. We'll need to get a confirmation of that number. So let me know if you want to walk. And Eric will.
I thought last year you were in a fire truck. Now you're.
No, that was Armed Forces Day.
2 years ago as a fire truck. We did walk last year as a group.
Oh.
We've just been in a lot of parades for the past couple of years for some reason.
We just like a good party. Yeah. It probably will rain, Eric. This is the PNW. Do you not see what's going on?
But she's going to let you wear it.
There are green umbrellas. There are green umbrellas.
Carry those numbers that they have at birthday parties, those giant number balloons.
Oh, what? Stick her in?
Okay, that would be cute, actually. I like it. And then we still have, and just to let you know what's kind of coming up, I know that, Mike.
Just follow up that position. It is the staff position. Okay. Replace Kelsey.
Oh, okay. Good deal.
Okay. So,
In
that case, we're taking it back to general business. No, it's Dan. He's got his information. So, thank you. I just want to say to everybody, thank you for a fantastic joint planning session. I really felt like it was collaborative. And you guys weren't too hard on me. You guys took it pretty easy on me.
I think you did a great job facilitating it.
You know what? It's a really good team. So, so thank you for your participation in that. And I know we all have our own things going on in our own lives. And you made the time and the space to be there. I think that might be why some of our fellow counselors are a little exhausted too. It was a long meeting. But we still have just a section that we'll workshop through since it's 2024, 2025 goals. I'm not going to put it immediately on an agenda. I know that I'd like to have a couple other big items come through in March after our legislative session closes. I'd like to be able to have good discussions on budgeting if we need to, and the housing update that Tony Ives is going to bring to us. But then I'd like to plan a workshop day for study session where we can delve into action steps and committee assignments. So if it's all right with y'all, I'd like to defer it at least to April. for that part. And how do you feel about that? So Jeff is looking like he wants to do it sooner.
Didn't poker, yeah, let's see, so.
No, I'm learning to read your faces. I can almost tell when you got a little thought that's about to come out of your mouth, and it's nice though. I want to hear your feedback.
So I think we're basically done or real close on the goals and the
The
wording.
goals
We just
are
need to, like-
done.
Okay,
The goals we have finished. So by the end of that session, we had workshop through all of the goals. So Christine is going to be working on putting those together for us
okay,
in a readable format. So the slides, I gave her the final slides, but we can talk about timing on that. But she's going to put together the goals for us. The goals, we workshop through them all, y'all.
sweet. So if we maybe can do an official, like, we all just look at what got written. down.
Sure, I can do that.
Then that's
Yeah.
done and.
I can bring the
that totally
goals.
Makes sense for me to,
I can bring that sooner. That's no problem. I'll bring that to the next study session. So next study session, we'll have the goals. I'll bring that. We'll have an HR report for our DEI. And gosh, there was something else that's going to be on next week. And I'm sorry that I'm blank. I mean, next study session. I'm sorry I'm blanking on it right now, but it was something else related to, we were going to wait till the we're going to circle back on the Warren Avenue Bridge project, talk about funding. And so I think that's going to be a big discussion that we'll have to have as council just among us. It won't really be an update from Public Works. They already provided their update for us. So our role is going to be to talk about how do we fund and how do we want to go forward based on the capital budget from Washington State. So we'll have those 3 items, the big items, plus whatever other general business items we have that week. So it's in 2 weeks.
Is anyone else top or head when the budget gets finalized between House and Senate?
We don't know. Well, we're going to wait till Sendai. So hopefully, the last day of legislative session. So hopefully they'll be done and that capital budget will be approved. The budget doesn't get approved until.
Well, not governor, I'm not looking for governor sign, but for once I'm trying to remember the process. It's
I think Sendai is where they vote the budget, right? At the legislative level. Am I wrong? Sendai means that they're done. They sign their budget and then it gets sent off to the governor. So once it moves past that point, it's pretty much a done deal.
right. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have that capital budget in.
And that date is. Yeah.
There is a specific date for Sendai, but sometimes they get done a couple days later, but or earlier. But usually,
Usually later.
Usually later by a couple of days, but I don't know. I have a friend who works there who's planned her vacation for the 2nd or 3rd week of March. So I think she's hoping that she feels really confident they're gonna make it through.
Early March 7th, early March.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that helps.
So by I think it's the 13th. Is it the 13th or 14th that we have study session? 13th, we're going to have a pragmatic discussion about bridge funding, because what we need to decide is how we want to advise that they move forward. Do we want to, are we going to have the funding for the design cost? Do they move forward with that?
Mm-hmm.
If we're not going to be moved up in the biennium, all of that.
Okay. Maybe a good Public Works item. We'll have a meeting before then.
Well, this has already been through Public Works. This is probably a pragmatic discussion between all of council. They've done a lot of presenting to us, and so I put it on the agenda as a pragmatic discussion for us.
So if you're gonna do that, then I need to know, is there cost savings for reverting back to the original plan?
Okay.
If there is not, then you can proceed forward, but if we have a chance, if there's no additional funding for the $4.5 million that we need with our third alternative, do we save X amount of dollars by going back to the original?
Which one is the original, 10 and 10?
So
8 and 8?
We asked for.
That was the original?
8 and 8, and that goes within the criteria of you don't need to buy the U-bit, 8 and 8.
Okay, so
So that, I do need that from staff, from administration. I think the whole. council
would you be willing to send an email to request that information, or I can send the email?
I think
Oh, you've
Tom's
got,
it.
he's got
I
it.
mean, that
Okay.
puts out request a lot of information.
Yeah, there's other numbers I would want
So-
to know.
There were a lot of different alternatives and
Folks, so let me have a floor for just a moment. There's been a ton of discussion on this particular item. What I don't want to do is overwhelm Public Works staff with questions that they've already answered. We have several presentations we've gotten. So maybe what would be better is to ask for, we have it in our packets. We have presentations. Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
clarity I'm looking for, is this just an informational? So it sounds like you want council to take a certain action, or is this informational briefing? If there's action to be taken, I want to know what the deadlines.
I don't have an action that I'm anticipating being taken. What we can decide is if we want to take action. Okay, but I don't have a specific action tied to this discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's just
Yeah.
information update only from the legislature, and
This
we
is,
can have a,
yep,
yeah.
yeah, I think it's information regarding capital budget at the state level. This is also, we have been given this information in several different forms. And so my hope is that we're not going to overwhelm Public Works staff with questions, but if there's something new that's not in a prior presentation, please do. And I know you're good with it. I know you know what's in all the presentations, Jeff. So you're well versed in it, yeah. And so let's just kind of rely on the previously published, most recent information that we have. And if there's something missing, please do connect with Public Works staff. I can't tell anybody what to do. Y'all are all grown-up adults. My hope is that we just don't make them repeat stuff that they've already told us. Although I do recognize the fact there's been new information that has come to light. Yes, Jane, you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
Well, he wants 8 and 8. I want to know what a 5 would cost you.
So, okay, so I don't necessarily want 8 and 8, but the presentation we had, whatever, last study session, pretty much shot everything out that was greater than 8, I recall, that would require a U-bit. Even the 10-foot required a special U-bit because of the design features of our bridge. So then I thought, okay, if we're going to go down this road in a legislature, let's say that they're not going to give us this funding, then we potentially have one more year to get the funding in the next legislature. My question is, in the meantime, you're designing for Path X. How much additional money does that cost? If, we're weighing, does it cost an extra $300,000-$400,000? And if so, are we willing to take that risk of not getting the funding next year? And we should get feedback whether we're going to get the funding next year or if this is an impossibility. I want the council to face reality. And if the reality is 8 and 8 gets us under budget and we can go forward with this thing, then we go forward with this thing on 8 and 8.
But maybe a 12 and 5.
No, the 12 still would require the purchase of.
Yeah, it still gets us a U-bit, but it still might keep it under budget if we only had 5 foot on the other side.
So, okay, so this is all.
Excuse me, I want to.
Point of order, y'all. This is all part of a pragmatic discussion that we can have at a future date. So please save your questions and your debates for when we have it actually as an agenda item, because this is a really controversial issue and we all have our own feelings and beliefs about this. And we all need to have our time to discuss it again.
Speaking of time to speak, I do want to make sure that we're prepared. If what I heard was that when the legislature does its work and we know how much money we're getting, we need to be prepared to have a pragmatic discussion. That means that there may be questions about alternatives based on this money that need to be asked. So I'm getting the sense, and it might be because of my bias, but I'm getting the sense that we're it sounds to me like this is a done deal. We have to go back. It's in budget, And I don't think that's the case yet. I don't think that's the case yet because we haven't seen the budget. So
Yeah.
if you want to have a pragmatic discussion, there's going to be questions that come up that we have not heard the answer to in previous because we didn't know we were getting this funding. So I think an organic conversation, preparation it doesn't need to be in the presentation. It needs to be, staff needs to be able to discuss those kind of things with us when we come together, unless we're going to drag it out.
Sure. And so again, this is not going to be a staff-driven discussion. This is going to be council-driven and staff available to answer questions. I like your attitude. It's not over till it's over, right? That's
No
the need
way.
for you. So, well, good. Well, thank you. So that's just on the consent agenda. I mean, that's on. No, it's on the study session agenda for 2 weeks from now, and we will have a lively discussion about that. And I anticipate we're going to spend some time. You know, I mean, I don't want to spend all night talking about it, but I want us to have a good pragmatic discussion, and maybe, I mean, if it takes an hour, it takes an hour. Okay. But that's going to be a big part of what we're going to do in 2 weeks is have that discussion.
It's a big bridge.
And it may be all the funding's going to be approved when we moved up in the biennium, and then it would just be like a hip hip hooray. But we'll still need to come up with $5 million, 5,000. Mike love
If
that.
that happens, I think you said you could buy pizza. There's something about it.
I did. I said if they move us up in the biennium, I was buying everybody pizza. So y'all, you better put your good vibes out for a pizza party in 2 weeks, okay? But other than that, I have nothing else to say for go to the order general council business. We do have an executive session for 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and make these announcements now. The next council meeting will be on Wednesday, March 6th, beginning at 5:30 in the first floor meeting chambers. The public is welcome to attend in person or remotely by Zoom. Special accommodations to attend that meeting in person or to request assistance to participate remotely via Zoom for public recognition may be requested by calling the city clerk at 360-473-5323 at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Council will retire for a 15-minute executive session to discuss pending litigation as allowed under RCW 42.30.1101I. No action is anticipated. We'll see you in a few minutes, folks.
Recording stopped.